Okay, good. All right. So, welcome everyone to Old Queer and Kicking, and happy 86th birthday to Jonathan Ned Katz. We're happy to have Jonathan back for a presentation of his artwork. My name is Greg Newton. I am the co-founder of the Bureau of General Services Queer Division, which is the place you find yourselves in right now. And the Bureau is an all-volunteer queer bookstore that has been in existence since 2012 and has been here at the center since 2014. And we are an all-volunteer organization. We depend on donations and sales to keep this boat afloat. So I'm going to pass around a bag. If you're able to give something, we appreciate it. You can also give on Venmo, for those of you online, at BGSQD, those 5 letters all around you. Another great way to support us is, of course, to buy books. So I will let you make that call. And before, okay. Oh, it's open. Deliveries coming in all the time. It's a really happening place. So before I bring Jonathan up, I wanted to read a land acknowledgement. The Bureau acknowledges that our organization operates on the unceded land of the Munsee Lenape. We encourage you to join the Bureau in signing up to make a monthly donation to the American Indian Community Houses Mannahatta Fund. The Mannahatta Fund, according to its website, is an invitation to all settlers and non-native people who wish to acknowledge the legacy of theft and genocide that comprise the history of New York City and the United States. And you can find out more at mannahattafund.org. We also want to recognize that today is the 119th day of Israel's genocidal campaign against the Palestinian people, funded by our tax dollars and enabled by our government's unwavering support. We hope that you will join us in calling for an immediate permanent ceasefire, an end to the siege, and an end to the occupation in order to end the collective punishment of Palestinians and to ensure the swift delivery of much needed food, water, medicine, fuel, and medical aid to the people of Gaza. Thank you. And now, ladies and gentlemen, people of all genders, please welcome Jonathan Ned Katz, artist, activist, scholar, historian.
So let me get settled here.
Get the slideshow up here.
Take your time.
Oh, right, we're already
Technical things.
Yes. There we go. And where's play? There it is. Okay. You're on.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming here tonight. And also the people watching on video, all the exciting modern things we can do. I've been thinking about the 2 guys, artists I knew, Paul Thek and Peter Hujar, who died of AIDS at a young age and did not get recognized until really recognized and in major museums, and just have their work valued until after they died. So they didn't have the fun and the satisfaction of having their work recognized in their lifetime. So I want my work recognized before I die so I can enjoy it and get satisfaction out of it. I'm going to talk about my whole lifelong career tonight and I'm going to say one sentence about each slide if I can. So let's proceed.
That out of the way. Let's see if I can do that. Oh, no, I don't want to post a flag. Thank you very much. Let's see. There we go. Okay.
Strong women. That's a theme of one of my earliest paintings, or maybe 8 years old or something. Wonder Girl and the Green Lantern Boy. She's almost pushing him off the page. The fat lady in the circle, and she my father took me to the circus and there were the freaks, and she seems very satisfied with herself. I'm fond of this one in particular. Oh, my brother had a stamp collection. I did a picture of a rare stamp, and as a kid. I tried to see how small I could paint. And it's on a tiny piece of paper, and it says "does" kind of flakes. And my mother said, the first words you said were does everything. I had heard a radio commercial, and that was my first words. So I love the way products look on the grocery store shelves. I still do. A man selling flowers on the street, because my father told me about the Great Depression that he had lived through and people having to just find ways to make a living. A white boy, a black boy, and a red-haired girl playing together peacefully. I was trying to do social realism, influenced, I think, very clearly by the work of Ben Shahn. A woman ironing through the window, and I went through conniptions, thinking about, well, I hope this doesn't reproduce the stereotype of a Black woman or man in some menial role working for white people. So I decided that she's ironing her own ironing. A soldier in the middle of the Korean War, I drew a picture. It's very large at the Little Red Schoolhouse. I drew this picture of a soldier. I was asserting my masculinity credentials, I think, because art was not a really masculine thing to be good at in the 1950s. Mrs. Schmidt looking out her window on Jane Street. I think it was Mrs. Schmidt that reported me to the FBI, and it was in the 50s, and my FBI file says, Jonathan Katz leaves his house every morning with what appear to be school books. I was going to City College. That's the kind of paranoia that went on in those days. A photograph of me at about age 10, and I think it shows the kind of haunted child, unhappy child that I was around age 10. My mother kept saying, smile, smile for the camera. I did this a drawing of myself. It started out to be, but then it's sort of as a clown, a silly figure, and the initials inside the pin say JR now, but they originally said JK, but I decided I didn't want this to be me. A picture of women and children being bombarded by unknown things from without. That was an experience that I had in an intimate relationship with my mother, where she said horrible, horrible things to me that undermined my sense of my own value. Chicken, a very supercilious looking chicken. And my mother asked me what it was called. And I said, female. And she said, is that what you think of women? And no, and when I think it over now, it wasn't what I thought of all women. It was one woman. My father took me to the Met, so I saw lots of pictures of naked ladies. There's really a lot there. So I went home and I painted one. My mother told me about mermaids that lured innocent sailors to their doom. And so I made a picture of a mermaid wearing a halter. So, she'd be a little proper. And in this photograph, my mother is wearing the same halter. And that's me with her. Oops, we skipped one. Also at the Met, my father took me there and I saw, this is Lucretia killing herself with a knife, sticking her knife in, and she's stabbing herself, and her breasts are really sexy. Woo! So I went home and I did my own picture of a woman stabbing herself. I wonder what woman that could have been. I did a picture of a woman at a refrigerator when I was about 10 or so. And she's wearing a house dress. This is not my mother. My mother never wore a house dress. Bobby Brussels' mother, who I found must have found really welcoming and sweet, wore a house dress once when we visited him at his home. I did another picture of a woman at a stove with a house dress on as well. And I think that these were pictures of the mother I would have liked to have had, Bobby Brussels' mother. Teen art, 1951-57. One picture of Music and Art High School, which was at 137th Street and Convent Avenue. And it's like one of the NYU buildings, Columbia buildings up there. And I was admitted to Music and Art High School as an art student, and I did this oil painting also, which I think expresses my real love of going to this school where in the 50s, where we were a bunch of weirdos together, musicians and artists, and we all loved that because we weren't so welcome outside. We never had figure drawing. It was the age of abstract expressionism, but once in a while in a class, somebody said, oh, draw each other. So I did. I began to have some figure drawing. That's George sitting at his desk. I remember who that was. That's a teacher at Music and Art, Mrs. Goddess Woman. We called her the Goddess Woman. a sort of idealized picture of a young girl sitting in one of those 1950s chairs, butterfly chairs, they were called, holding a dove. So it's about peace. A young woman sitting, a teenage maybe, with this done a little older, sitting on a table, and I sort of had romantic fantasies about a woman that looked in my class that looked something like this. I was influenced by Rousseau, Henri Rousseau, that I saw at MoMA, I think. And I went home and did pictures of this sort of Rousseau animal in a jungle. A clown sort of figure with sort of hairy legs and looking like alone in the jungle. I think that was another image of this unhappy person I was, an isolated person. A court jester, sort of maybe I was interested in costume design. Balancing, a balancing bicycle rider. There's a number of paintings that have balancing themes. I guess I was trying to balance, and behind this figure is the institutions that this balancing upside down figure was dealing with. Now, if your kid did this effete picture, I mean, you would wonder about his sexual orientation. I did grow up in the village, and I guess I saw guys leaning against walls that looked something like this. Guys looking out, a naked guy looking out the window, definitely not me. He has red hair and he's thin and tall, and but looking out the window, I think in my teens, I was, oh God, if I can only get away from my family into the world, I really want to be out there on my own and explore and find out who I am. Another guy looking out a window. Oh, a nun in Greenwich Village. I did several pictures of nun, a linoleum cut of a nun. Now, I was growing up in Greenwich Village, and I did this painting of a nun in Greenwich Village. And behind the nun is R.I.E. Rienzi's. It was a coffee shop I went to. And I only sort of recently realized that this nun was me at the time. Looking down, not seeing all the gay guys that were all over the place in the village. And I was out, going to Rienzi's at 10 and 11 as a teenager, but I kept my eyes down. Self-portrait I did as a teenager. Another one in pajamas, still again looking a little like a clown figure. A handsome portrait that I wished I looked like in my 1956 around graduation time. I didn't feel I looked like this. That was my yearbook picture graduating from music and art high school. My cousin, a wonderful sculptor, did this portrait of me when I was 17, and she captures this troubled teenager. Yeah, you can really see that in her image of me. She was the one who first said, "You should go to a therapist." And I began a long career of going to therapists. That helped a lot. Young man art, 1958, 1965. going out of business. I began to be interested again in doing work that commented on capitalism, but work that had some quality to it, not just didactic, but that also clearly embraced critique of the system. The power elite, the the politician in the front, the military leader general in the middle, and the capitalist pig holding up his dollars in the back. I read C. Wright Mill's book, The Power Elite. The almighty dollar. It's actually very large. It's 6 feet and times 3 feet. And I loved hanging it on my wall. And I was very proud of this. I still am. I like this. I think with this sort of death's head of Washington in the middle. I think it says a lot. Textile designer. For 10 years, I made a living as a textile designer. Just 2 samples. My mother, this was a wallpaper I designed. I have an image of my mother and father standing on a ladder and holding the ladder. They were old, and I hope they didn't fall off. And they were putting up this wallpaper in their house, a bit of it. And another, it's a sheet design that I did, and towels, sheets, towels. Yeah, so it was a whole nother wonderful experience I had working as a textile designer in this great place. I've written about it in an essay that's online called My Beloved Friend Carol Joyce. Carol sat opposite me, and we had many discussions about politics and movies and sex and more sex. And anyway, then the LGBT movement came along, and in the winter of 1971, I wrote a gay liberation play that got a bit of attention. It was reviewed in the New York Times, and mine was favorably reviewed in contrast to another playwright. And this was the beginning of a new life for me, getting involved in the gay movement. And that's a picture of me that appeared in Women's Wear Daily. And it may be that I was the first openly gay person that appeared in Women's Wear Daily, the trade paper of the fashion industry, in which there are very many queer gentlemen. Old man art. So for a long time, I did gay history work. And but in 2004, after breaking up with a longtime partner, I wanted to get out in the world and started going to figure drawing sessions, sometimes 2 and 3 times a week for 3 hours each. So, my art broke clearly with this kitsch tradition of gay male art. This is a very extreme example, but I think it makes a point that this was like one of my, these are some of my favorites of my own work of these later years. The model didn't show up, so one of the artists said he would pose for the group that was right here in this building, actually. A very thin guy, all kinds of bodies. That's not what the old gay artists did very often. So I felt my art breaks with a tradition, all different kinds of bodies. Yeah, we posed for each other. We took off our clothes and posed for each other. That was in my house. I remember where these scenes took place. And this young model had tattoos all over his body. And I loved drawing them and the richness of the color. I like that one a lot. And that was here probably in the drawing sessions on Saturday here. And that's one of the ones I'm fondest of too. Yeah, there's a sort of hunky guy, but the textile influence. You can see the textile design in the pattern on the material there. Oops, I went through. Two guys together. It's so much harder, I find, to do two guys together. And this is another where we were posing for each other. So they're, regular looking guys' bodies. And there's an affectionateness, I think, in a lot of this art that I do now. An affection, there's liveliness that I strive for, a vitality. Let's see. Some of them are erotic, explicitly erotic. This is a strange thing that happened where a guy stopped me in some place and said, can I pose for you? So I said, sure. Well, when he was posing, it was pretty sexy, and he got this erection, and I might have said something like, well, when I was done, you want to play around, but he said, oh, no, I'm straight. That was a surprise. So there are some straight guys that like to, I guess, turn on or be appreciated by gay guys. Another one where he's holding his dick. I sort of like drawing guys doing that for some reason. I don't know. I love the color on that one and the vitality of it. I work very fast. So when that works, it provides a vitality to the artworks that I'm fond of. There's an example of that. I used a paint marker to do it, so you couldn't make a mistake. You had to you did it really fast. And the model, that was in a session here on Saturday. And I think that one came out really well. Not all of them do. Oh, so I also do occasional other kinds of work. This is based on a photograph, inspired by a photograph of Alice and Gertrude. And there's their little dog there under Gertrude's chair. And I like that one too. I'm showing you ones that I really like. Every artist, even Picasso, has ones that are fabulous and incredible, and others that aren't so great. So, there's that great variety. Oh, that's the Eve Adams altarpiece, altering who we recall in history. Eve Adams was a young Jewish Polish immigrant, and I wrote my last book about her, biography of her. So this is a way of trying to memorialize her in an artwork, and it's art brut, where it's a kind of style of art in which you use things you found in the street, an old top of a coffee can. It's glued together. There are pins holding it together. So I thought that style was appropriate to the subject matter of this very, very intriguing woman. I last fairly recent no, it's not that recent, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, artists as commodities. Art as commodities, that's what I was thinking about. And there are these common shapes that we know every day in our lives. And I put, they're the artist's real signatures, which you can find on the internet. So, so it relates to me thinking about my own art, and is the only way I get my art valued before I die by becoming a commodity and being recognized on the art market? How will my art be valued for its aesthetic value? That's not the way the art market necessarily works. So, so I leave you with that a question. Oh, there's a couple more maybe. On the wall in chalk is written, "They want war. He who wrote it has already fallen." It's a Bertolt Brecht poem translated from the German. And I thought it would be make a great piece of word art, trying to make art out of words. And a very recent work, I'm fascism warning. I'm scared. What can we do about it? And that's my talk for tonight. And I hope we can have a discussion. I'd love to hear what people are thinking about. And do you want to turn off the?
Sure, I can turn.
Or, any comments or further things you'd like to learn about my art, or
you can look at yourself.
oh no, turn it away. Yeah, yes, in the back. Very loud. We were going to use these so the people watching on video, I know there are some, could hear the questions. Oh, okay. Great. It's really interesting for the artists.
So
when you think of commodification, have you come to a conclusion as to what you would be wanting to be remembered as, and how that commodification would be equated?
Well, I feel that my art, in the last, figurative art of naked men, is struggling to affirm something that was put down in my own growing up in Greenwich Village too. So, yeah, so I think we all struggle with this system of marketing. I have started selling my art on through the Swan Auction Gallery. I'll be selling 2 pieces again in the next one in August. And there's an LGBT art and memorabilia auction. Swan is a wonderful old auction house. It's a way of, I think of it as a way of getting out there and known. Maybe because I'm not a full-time, I do history also. So I'm not in the art networks. So it's trying to get known as an artist myself without a gallery. Swan was one of the ways that it seemed to get out there in the world known, but it's also a way of, my art becomes a commodity. It's valued as a product. So, we live under this system for now. And we have to figure out ways to make the best of it. Who else? Any other? Yes. Yes.
So you're talking about the satisfaction that comes with being successful. What does that satisfaction look like and why is it important?
Good question. Is as a child, the thing I was really good at without ambiguity was art. And I did this, it looks remarkable to me as child art now. But I started as a child looking to get praise from adults for my own basic sense of value. So I have struggled for years with those therapists and in the gay movement to get a just good sense of my own value for myself. So I don't think I'm doing that now with wanting my art to get recognized. I think it's just that I want to have the fun of seeing it recognized and talked about. It'd be so interesting to what would an art critic say? It would be fun. And that's what Paul Beck and Peter Hujar, that wonderful photographer, they didn't have that satisfaction. They were still really struggling for recognition when they died. Yeah. Having, known them, it's a very telling example for me to recall that I'm so sorry for them that's one of the things they missed out on, seeing their art recognized for its value. Peter's work is amazing. Yes.
Mentioned you're still doing history work, and I wanted to know, is there an overlap between your history perceptions and your artwork that you're doing, and where you feel your artwork will be part of gay history in a sense? Is there an overlap with that? Maybe we can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's a good, interesting question. Yeah, I began to talk about it when I talked about my art, figurative art of my old age, making a break with some types of earlier traditional gay male art that was pictures of hunks, with giant dicks and big built-up shoulders and gym bodies. And, I knew a lot of gay guys that went to a lot of trouble to do that, and it was a way of them feeling better about themselves and not being sissies that they had been called as little boys and whatever. So yes, I would like to see my art considered, put in the context of an art that was made possible by the queer liberation movement. I've often stressed that my work in queer US history could not have happened without the existence and my own participation in the gay movement starting in 1971 when I did this gay liberation play, and then that got attention. It was a documentary play. I should have said that. And so it collected dramatic documents to tell some of the, excite people about that there was such a thing as a queer US past. And so that the attention that play got led to my getting a contract, $5,000 for 3 years' work. The first book on gay American history called that. So, yeah, so my writing work on queer history is a result of the gay movement, and as part of that history, there's a history of work on queer history. And maybe, yes, I would like to see my art as part of the history of queer art by queer artists, like, art by women artists, and now recognized much more than in the past because artists have struggled for that. And art by African American artists is now much more recognized than it was because of the struggle that went into that, getting that art recognized. The art of Romary Bearden, for instance, is amazing, the Black artist. Yeah, great question.
So how did you transition from what you said was a scared high school boy to openly male gay artist? Like, what's your coming out story?
Yeah. Well, I began to recognize my own feelings, my own attraction to men and wanting to have sex. I heard about sex as a teenager. There was lots of discussion in my house about sex, and I was pretty silent, and I would listen to all these discussions. But it wasn't till age 18 that I had my first experience. That was the beginning of recognizing this strong desire, attraction. I started to try to deal with it by, as many people did, by going to therapy. Luckily, I got in one case to a fantastic therapist. He had escaped from Nazi Germany as a 13-year-old on his own, with a fake passport. And there's other details of his story. He grew up to be a therapist, and by accident, I got to him. And he was very, very helpful to me. Yeah. And so after the group therapy that he put me in, I agreed. In the late 60s, when the gay movement came along after Stonewall, I was ready to investigate it. And it was nerve-wracking to go to the first meeting of the Gay Activists Alliance in New York City and it was meeting in a church on 10th Avenue, I think, and 28th Street, and walk through that door and go in. It was terrifying. I knew that it would change my life, but I didn't know how. And so that was scary. Well, it turned out in the Gay Activists Alliance, I met a guy who was a theater publicist. He worked as that. He became the director of this documentary play coming out that I put together from my first searching for such a thing as we called it Gay and Lesbian American History at the time. And that led to my, more and more, when the book was, the morning the play was to open, my phone rang. It was June 1972, and it was my mother. And she said, "Is that you in the Village Voice?" She had seen an ad for the play with my name on it. First, I wasn't going to use my name on this gay liberation play. And then all of us, in the whole process of getting this play together, we realized we had to use our names. or, you can't do a gay alliteration play and not use your name. So there was my mother. Are you a homosexual? Yes. Why didn't you tell me? Because I knew you'd act like this. So it was the beginning of a new positive relationship with my mother. After a couple of years it took her, but by the time I was editing Gay American History in 1974 and 5, she was one of my editors because she was very critical, and I wanted, well, at least I'll have, I want to get a critical opinion before I publish it. It's better than afterwards. So my mother was an editor on Parents Magazine, telling America's mothers how to bring up their children. It makes me laugh. Any other questions? I have no idea how long we've been here.
We're totally fine.
Yes, Paul.
Thank you first for the presentation. You made a big jump in your presentation between the 60s and the beginning of
Doing the adult work, the old man art.
And
Is that
you
it?
understand me? You understand me?
Well, say it again.
Can you hear me? So you made a big jump
Yes,
in your presentation of your paintings.
yes,
Youth first, a child, youth, and teenager, a young man, and then so you went to the 60s, and then there was a big jump in your presentation. You went to the year 2004, I think, when you started to be a gay painter or painter of gay men, being gay, and all that come together. And you mentioned that you, in the meantime, which is about 40 years or something, you were a historian.
yes.
So gay history, I understand, and I know. And didn't you paint all these years?
No. No, I
Tell
was
me about it.
busy.
Tell me.
I was very, very busy trying to find the documents, first of all, that are published in Gay American History. There was before the internet. I was obsessed. When I went to wherever I went, I told people what I was doing. And at a party, somebody says, oh, Alexander Hamilton wrote love letters to John Lorenz during the American Revolutionary War. I said, really? I don't know. And I went to the NYU library. The queer librarian group got me in because I didn't have much money to pay for getting in a card to get into the NYU library. So information being free is very important to me. Yeah, so I was, it became a different career. Yes, I've had two very different careers, although there is this overlap. That's interesting to think about.
Did you miss it?
Did I miss it? No, I had a wonderful life during those 40 years with a partner that I met in 1976, I think, when Gay American History, around the time Gay American History was published. And we were, busy having fun and all kinds of really a good life together. Yeah. Did I say enough about it? Is there more? Is there?
Sorry that I keep asking.
Wait, could you give him, just so people, the video watchers can hear.
I keep asking this because you are so passionate about the recognition that you want for yourself as a painter. You got the recognition as a writer, I think.
I
right?
feel that, yeah.
Yeah, and now, so you're back to painting, and you would like to have that recognition, very passionate about it. And that's why I'm asking, did you miss it? And now that you're painting, do you miss the writing? Is there, or is it indeed the overlap here? Is it coming together, or did the writing about gay history sort of give you permission to start painting gay subjects?
Yeah. Yeah, certainly. Certainly becoming an openly gay historian doing gay history made me feel, I could do, I'm not ashamed anymore the way I was as a teenager. So yeah. What else? I don't know what else to say about that. Yeah, I can't think of anything else. Yes. Wait, let's get the mic.
What is your true love?
Both. I have two loves. Doing figurative work and doing the queer history. I've tried to combine them. Like there's one work that I discovered that heterosexuality was defined in the major American dictionary as oh God, I can't remember. Abnormal, as abnormal. Yeah, it's not exactly the word that's used, but in 1923. And it was not until 1933 or something that the present way of defining heterosexuality came in. So it was a very surprising discovery. So I did a painting of a word art of that, what that dictionary says. It was so extraordinary. When I got a letter in the mail saying from the Merriam-Webster, the big dictionary company, saying that the first usage of the word in 1923 was abnormal. Heterosexuality was abnormal. And so what is that about? So I'd begun to see that heterosexuality wasn't defined right away as the normal thing, because the normal thing did not involve sex. It was about procreation. The valued thing was procreation, and unfortunately went along with a little bit of sex, but you got that over as quickly as possible. At least the guys, anyway. So it ended up, my writing a book called The Invention of Heterosexuality, which studies that history of the word coming in and of a new regime, not only words, but we're talking about a system that certainly I experienced as, which hetero was normal and homo was degenerate, abnormal, all those words that were used, and that made a huge impression on me as a young man. And so it's not only words that we're talking about, but power, systems of power, where psychiatrists were getting paid to talk about us as abnormal. I'm, one or maybe there were 5 who are the big experts in New York City. And I, in fact, took part in a zap, as we called them, of the last time that the psychiatrists, old-time psychiatrists, tried to talk about homosexuals without having homosexuals say what they thought. So we all infiltrated a meeting at the medical society uptown, and when the meeting began, one of my comrades blew a whistle and we stood up on chairs and we said, "We're the homosexuals. We want to discuss with you." And they closed down the meeting. So rather than talk with us, they closed down the meeting. They were terrified, I guess. So it's been quite a life. It's been fabulous, to be part of this. I feel so lucky at age 86 to have dared to do some of the scary stuff that I did, walk through that door in the winter of 1971 of that church where the Gay Activist Alliance was meeting. Yes, so I'm really glad. Thank you so much for coming. Thanks.
We have some of Jonathan's books out on the table there if you want to check them out. And thank you, Jonathan. Thank you to everyone who joined us online.